Here in the long night, all that's left of Earth are relics from the past. Some of those relics have stood the test of time. One thing can be said of the Solar Empire: they knew how to build weapons, and they built them to last. Machines of war still wander the wasteland. Sometimes the difference between life and death is knowing how to make them fight for you. Combat drones and armed autonomous vehicles can make a huge difference in any fight. But one type of ancient construct towers above the rest. The armies of old Earth used to build colossal, biomechanical war machines, known as bioframes. Heavy genetic and cybernetic molding were used to create some of the most devastating weapons of war to have ever existed. These days, any country able to get their hands on a bioframe has a massive advantage in any wartime engagements. So imagine the awe felt by the Apes of Morygymite when they saw the enormous armored silhouette of a Genzel und Mera class bioframe striding through the forest. Welcome back to Marigomite, where news of our military ambition has spread far and wide. All throughout the Simian Uplift Nation, the apes are preparing for war. We're not really sure who we're going to fight yet, but you can be damned sure that we're going to pick a fight with somebody soon. A huge migrant wave has given us a new influx of potential troops and weaponsmiths, all of whom dream of becoming legendary warriors. Many brought their own guns, vehicles, and combat drones. But of course, none of these weapons compare to the bioframe. This is Hasty Mutop, a Genzel und Mera class bioframe, an artificial life form comprised of a living computer wired into a biomechanical humanoid body, resulting in a highly adaptable cybernetic organism resembling a humanoid covered in metal plates. Its special plating renders it immune to flame. It has a single eye, and it carries a plasma machine gun. What a beauty. The reason it has a name, Hasty Mutop, is because it arrived here as somebody's pet. Yes, it looks like one of the migrant apes made some alterations to its combat AI, replacing some of the war programming with some rather less useful subroutines. Make no mistake, it's still huge and heavily armed, and should be very strong in fortress defense, but we aren't going to quite be able to use it to its full potential. I doubt we'll be able to send it on any missions abroad. The ape who made the modification and has claimed the colossal war machine as a pet is named Dipte Michiwar. He's 50 years old, short and weak, though he is a competent swordsman, and like the rest of the apes, dreams of becoming a legendary warrior. Unlike most of ape society, he doesn't care about being stoic, and always presents himself as extravagantly as possible, displaying a magnificent image to the world. While he certainly made an impressive entrance, bringing along an entire bioframe, we really would have preferred if he hadn't turned it into a pet, though. Dipte had damn well better clean up after the thing. Anyway, we'll stick the bioframe and the other drones in front of our entrance to ward off any uninvited guests. As for the new migrants, they're already getting busy around the fortress. We've got people digging out new bedrooms in the bunker, mining out corroded metal and pipes, expanding our food and water infrastructure, and putting the finishing touches on our wall. Now that it has a full roof, the fortified wall can be manned by our railgunners. We've got 4 half-decent shooter apes training in the target range, getting ready to defend the base if need be. However, we are getting rather low on bullets. We're going to need to extract and process some energetic compound to keep our apes stocked up. Well, this is interesting. Just north of our river, a human thief has been spotted. Looks like they were sneaking around trying to take something, but we noticed them long before they got anywhere near our stuff. I suspect they'll make a break for it now that they've been noticed. Let's see what they do. Oh yeah, they just booked it straight out of here. Absolutely panicking. Perhaps she saw the bioframe. There's no way of knowing exactly where this thief came from. The nearest baseline human civilization is the Guild of Glories. They've got some settlements 6 days to the south in the desert. Looks like they're set up next to a lake. Well, if these are the guys who sent the thief, then they could make a fine target for our military exploits. But we don't have any way of confirming their involvement. We'll be keeping an eye on these guys. As we hit autumn, the next Simian Uplift caravan arrives. This supply drop ought to be helpful for us building up our military. We can buy up some extra nanotechny and see if they have any energetic compound. Our food stockpiles are running a little low as well, so we can also grab some grub. Yeah, we should be able to stock up on a lot of stuff here. We're trading away mundane metals that we've managed to recycle from the scrap down here. Stuff like aluminum, lead, bismuth, gold. We're primarily focused on nanotechny and energetic compound right now. We need to arm our soldiers. Besides the other supplies, we also purchased an algae farm worm. A huge machine resembling a grub designed to internally produce various products and survive even when civilization deteriorates. A single mechanical eye is embedded on its sensor cluster. A pair of massive plastiglass vats containing edible photosynthetic algae are embedded on its back. Hopefully this will bolster our food stores. Next step for the settlement of Marigomite is to properly arm our military. For that we're going to need lots of energy to run our nanoforges. We could just keep using the abundant lumber for charcoal, but I think there's a more high-tech solution we could be using. The apes take several months to work on constructing an unusual structure across the ravine, made out of recycled pipes. This round tower extends 26 feet up, and it encircles a pit that pierces our light aquifer and ends in a shallow pit of water, where our fissile material is being stored. That's right, the apes have been constructing a cooling tower for their nuclear reactor. It's a relatively small-scale operation, but once completed, this tower will allow us to generate impressive amounts of energy-rich coke to power anything we might need. This power will be used to make nanotechny rifles, armor, and close combat weapons to arm our growing population. Yes, we're quickly amassing new apes, through both large migrant waves and the first few births in the colony. Here we can see all the little tykes playing around next to our wells, precariously near the edge of the ravine. As of mid-spring of our 3rd year here in Marigomite, we've reached a population count of 87 apes. We've also gotten a pretty surprising number of bioframes from all the incoming migrants. We now have a total of 7, though most aren't fully grown. They're all programmed to be pets, and are thus unavailable for war training. But even still, that's a lot of massive, heavily armed death machines. Once our industry is slightly further along, we're going to be able to field a pretty devastating military force. As the colony grows, the apes have had their first election, assigning a new mayor. The Simian Uplift government is, after all, a democratic republic, whose people demand just representation. Perhaps someday we will grow to the size where our colony might have a representative in the Confederation Senate, or even house the president himself. For now, the new mayor is named Both Fivivante. Here he is, doing a bit of fishing. Both is a 56-year-old male Simian Uplift, and is thin with a high voice. Like most all of our apes, he dreams of becoming a legendary warrior. He's often nervous and doesn't trust others, yet he is compassionate. He sees this compassion as a personal flaw that gets in the way of his quest for power. I'm sort of getting the picture here of someone who puts on a tough front, but is deep down a kinder person that he lets on. Perhaps he's insecure about looking weak to others. I could see him feeling the need to compensate for his slimmer frame relative to the rest of the apes. Sounds like exactly the kind of neurosis that he could use to fuel some wanton military conquest. Both also likes Genzel-type bioframes for their frenetic cunning, so I'm sure he's satisfied that we have 3 of the things now. We've got him set up in a set of mayoral quarters down underground, which is almost complete. He has also issued a ban on selling his favorite article of clothing, form-fitting tunics. We weren't really planning on exporting a lot of clothes anyway, so that shouldn't be an issue. A few months later, in the midsummer of 252, additional migrants have brought us up to more than 90 apes, and the cooling tower is finally finished. The surface level has been sealed up, and the only access into the reactor now is through a bridge that spans the lower parts of the ravine. We've broken down a lot of old nuclear fuel rods that we found while digging into the old pipe network, so we now have a hefty stock of depleted uranium. Soon we'll be extracting huge amounts of energy from our reactor. However, some more immediate priorities have come up. It seems that there's some civil strife within the colony, After a woodcutting accident, it seems that a brawl has started to break out among the apes. Their exact motivations are a mystery, but some of our apes are running wild around the fortress and getting into scrapes. Maybe our new military squad can help put an end to this unrest. We've split our military into railgunners and sword swingers, the latter being our general melee squad, not entirely restricted to sword apes. As our soldiers go out to patrol the colony, oh dear, one of our soldiers just decapitated a doctor, and another one just killed a miner. I guess I don't know what we expected sending in our military, but I think the fighting has stopped. Order has been restored, I suppose. Perhaps this violent show of force will prevent future riots. Beheadings will continue until morale has improved. Anyway, with the reactor now fully online, we're processing the uranium and pumping out coke cells like crazy. We've been able to use the power to start fully kitting out both our ranged and melee squads. The sword swingers have grade A nanotechny melee weapons, like serrated wedge axes and hooked wedge swords, along with heavy suits of Jarst D exo armor. Meanwhile, the railgunners all have scoped rail rifles made of grade M nanotechny, along with the sleek and somewhat lighter Vrasta G10 exo armor suits. With the coming of autumn, another caravan also arrives, where they have an energy slug for sale. This strange creature filters nanotechny from the substrate, allowing it to slowly produce bars of grade M nanotechny. Every little bit helps. The caravan also sold us some additional Genzel-class bioframes. Don't mind if we do. These ones are war trainable. They might even serve as a breeding population eventually. We're not entirely sure if they can reproduce naturally. In any case, our military will very soon be ready to take on the world. Looks like we might have a minor target to deal with before that though, because a nanite ooze colony is harassing some of our worker apes on the surface. Let's try to send in some soldiers. Oop, looks like in the fight with the workers, the nanite ooze colony fell off the cliff, along with some of the workers. One of our apes managed to grab a handhold and climb back up, but another fell to their death. The nanite ooze, meanwhile, has been washed away by the flow of the river. And another ape, this one a child, died from wounds after fighting the creature. That's quite unfortunate, and seems like a good enough reason to start work on a hospital. If we're going to start up our war machine, we'll need a place to deal with the injured. And on that note, we have recently received some exciting news from our liaison with our government, the Confederation of Halls. President Squamous Yadongaxiant, Commander-in-Chief of the Confederation of Halls, has deemed it necessary for the safety and prosperity of our people that we mobilize for war. A civilization of neo-humans known as the Youthful Empire has settled too close to our borders, in the ruins of one of our ancestral settlements, no less. And this will not stand. Neo-humans are a type of augmented human. Most neo-humans are just larger and stronger variants on baseline humanity, but controlling their oligarchies are the executors. Heavily augmented superhumans with vast intelligence, powerful psychic abilities, and a penchant for instability. Well, whatever madness drove them to slight the simian uplifts, they will soon regret it. It's time that the Apes of Morygymite prove their grit. We are sending everything we've got at them. 10 sword swingers, 9 railgunners, 2 Genzel bioframes, and our best combat drones. First, we'll push the neo-humans out of the nearby ruins they're squatting in, mastered lancers. Then we'll start hitting their settlements across the sea. This is the moment we've been waiting so very, very long for, apes. Let's go blast some neo-humans. The apes and their war machines easily blast away the meager resistance of the neo-humans at mastered lancers, sending them fleeing. With swords and rifles, we head south to the neo-human settlement of Coast Clouds, where we cut through hordes of defending giant tardigrades and raze the place to the ground. As the months continue, the apes grow bolder and attempt to assault the neo-human heartland across the sea, starting with a settlement known as Rake Braids. The apes take down some neo-humans, but in the end, the battle proves disastrous. Extremely heavy drone defenses mow through our attackers, and apes are killed in droves. Many of our survivors are captured, and the remaining apes limp home defeated. With our army heavily depleted, some civilians volunteer to go on a dangerous mission to attempt sneaking behind enemy lines and freeing the trapped apes. However, the infiltration is spotted early, and yet more apes are killed by the neo-human heavy cannon drones. After a 6-month offensive, we're running low on troops and equipment. We're going to need to regroup and train up new soldiers. Let's hope they have time to do so before the neo-humans launch a counterattack. Something's been spotted by the perimeter watch, and it's not the neo-humans. Out in the forest, a pale green glow flickers. There are things fouler than soldiers and war machines waiting in the dark of the long night. Approaching our fortress is a powerful nanotech cyborg whose mind has been corrupted by the cosmic force known only as the Pale Star. This is a Pale Star cultivator cyborg, a being capable of wielding both the power of nanite swarms and the incomprehensible reality warping abilities of the godlike Pale Star. We have to destroy this abomination before it wreaks havoc on our people. Meager as our remaining military is, we send our people out to confront this horror. As the Pale Star cultivator approaches the gates of Marigomite, our defense systems activate, and all hell breaks loose. Every drone, bioframe, and vehicle with a gun on it immediately locks in on the Pale Star cultivator and opens fire. Flamethrower streams and plasma rounds burn and batter the creature without end, as our bioframes move in and beat the foul thing to death before it has a chance to seriously retaliate. Overwhelming force annihilates the vile being, until nothing remains but a burning husk. However, our victory came at a price. The massive firefight quickly ignited the flammable moss trees, and a wildfire is now incinerating the entire forest. Years ago, we came to this place to enjoy the abundant food, water, resources, and safety of the forest. Now all we can do is watch as it turns to smoke and ash. Our own weapons have torched the lands they were meant to protect, leaving us with a landscape hardly more livable than the wastelands we once sought refuge from. So maybe that's just how it all turns out in the end. Maybe everywhere we go, we're doomed to burn it all down, trying to kill each other. Maybe it's the same for humans, apes, and all the others. Maybe there's no hope for us after all. But even so, we ain't gonna stop fighting and doing what we can to survive. Because even if the whole world's a shithole, it's the only one we've got, and we're not giving it up that easy. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you liked that video, feel free to check out my other Dwarf Fortress stuff, and subscribe if you like. Check out my Patreon page in the description if you're feeling particularly generous and want to throw me a few bucks. I also did a Dwarf Fortress test livestream about a week and a half ago, and the VOD is on my channel. It went pretty well, and I may stream more in the future, so keep an eye out for stream announcements on YouTube and Patreon. This video featured the Dwarf Fortress mod The Long Night by Squamous. You can check it out in the description. Keep in mind, the version of the mod shown in this video is outdated. I played on the old 2.82 version for save compatibility reasons, but the mod has updated a lot since then. If you play the current version, a lot of mechanics and content will be very different, so don't expect everything to work the same as it does in the video. For longtime viewers, let me apologize for vanishing off the face of the earth. I needed to take some time away from YouTube due to typical tuber burnout, but I'm back now and ready to get cracking at it again. I'll be making more content once the Dwarf Fortress Steam release hits in just a week, but I decided to tie up this loose end before diving into the new update. I might even decide to make some kind of new player's guide for the Steam version, though I might also just go straight into more narrative stuff. Let me know what you're more interested in. Going forward, I'm not going to have some kind of set schedule, I'll just be working on videos in my free time. For more details on that, you can check out the free Patreon post in the description. In any case, I really appreciate anyone who watches these videos, and I'm excited to see where the channel goes from here. See you next time.